Hey everyone, back at it for the final time, I believe. It's been a while. I actually wanted this series to go a lot quicker. Things happened, no excuses, just couldn't get it done in time. But now, time to talk about the ultimate episode. We're finally on episode 26 of Neon Genesis Evangelion. I've seen a lot of people say this is probably one of the shows that will most likely make you hate a series. This is up there. I don't see it that way. This is an episode I enjoy more and more the older I got, and I really appreciate what the story is doing and how it fits into the arc of Evangelion. Anyway, we'll get more to my thoughts about that. Let's just talk about the episode real quick. First half starts with not narration. Starts off with text telling us basically that there's not enough time, so we're only going to tell one story, and that's the story of Shinji Ikari during the instrumentality process. And it calls him Case 3 because he is the third child. Now it's basically all through Shinji's head, but at the same, basically he's doing what he's done the whole series. He's questioning his motivations on life. He's questioning what's his purpose in life. He's questioning how people feel and how people interact with him. The only thing with this episode stating that it's talking only about Shinji, there are a couple of questions that either Rei will answer, Asuka will answer, Masato will answer. So it's hard to tell if that's their perspective, if that's how he perceived their perspective is, or if it's just the fact that instrumentality is happening and it's basically making everyone one. Not a lot new here. Shinji talks about how he feels unworthy. Everyone tells him that's your own perception. It's a lot of talking and a lot of flashing of pictures. There's not a lot of movement in here. That's why a lot of people call the last couple of episodes really cheap, because they can be done so cheaply because it's a lot of reused animation and still shots. So Shinji's basically talking about how, the Eva has given him purpose, and that's why he pilots it. Once again, he's going back to that well. Everyone's telling him, trying to convince him. It's almost like it's become an intervention. Letting him know that, no, you have a purpose beyond piloting the Eva. You just have to find it. And if you don't, the underlying course of this is, of course, if he doesn't find out he has a purpose and he doesn't want to live, that instrumentality will be completed and we'll all become one person. So eventually Shinji starts, there's one particular scene where he picks up the phone and he hears how everyone is telling him, oh, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. He'll hear everyone's voice. It'll be Masato, the three people in Nerve. It'll be Masato, Kaji, Kensuke, Toji. Everyone he basically knows stating, I hate him, and he's like, well, I must hate myself. And he does hate himself. So he kind of starts to come around saying, well, I like it when I like it when I'm in the Eva, because that's when people praise me. That's when people say that, I'm worth something. And he kind of has to and they kind of tell him, well, if you think that the Eva is the only reason that anyone likes you, then you will no longer have purpose, because you have no purpose. They only like you because of this thing over here. So you can feel him starting to you can feel that the wave is changing, that he's starting to kind of get it now. And that's where the first act ends. And the Japanese title for episode 26 is called The Beast That Shouted Love at the Heart of the World. Okay, this title is a little bit confusing before I get into the English title, because there are actually a couple of different ways that this title can be done. There's also, I've heard some people call it The Beast That Shouted I at the Heart of the World, but I'm going with the director's cut, which they replaced the word I with love. And that's something that you will see. There's a couple of different places where you can see that that was the original title. It has something to do with, the Japanese lettering are more like symbols, and depending on where it's placed, it can mean one word or another, which is something that we'll have issues with when we get to the end of Evangelion. Alright, so now let's get to the English title, Take Care of Yourself. Alright, Take Care of Yourself. Once again, we're starting off. Shinji's trying to figure it out. And this is the part where we get a little bit more existential with it, because you hear some of the characters asking Shinji, what do you want? How can we help you? More or less. The conversations between the characters can be either seen as the other characters trying to let Shinji know that they don't want instrumentality to happen, they know he controls it, or it can be seen in another sense as Shinji's trying to convince himself. That one's a little bit harder to swallow, because Shinji is so much, he's so inverted. He doesn't want to let anyone in. He doesn't want to let people notice him. But you can also say, that's why I prefer the notion that he's being coached, because of the fact that he wouldn't let anyone know that he was hurting. But we have this whole thing about, once again, people are talking to him about, freedom, and, maybe you don't want to be anything and you should fade away. We get this interesting conversation where someone's telling him, if you don't, this is what makes you who you are. It's the clothes that you wear, the shoes, the people you interact with, the people you don't interact with, how you see yourself, how you perceive yourself. There's a part also where he starts to be like a pencil drawing. A lot of people will complain about this part, stating, oh, they ran out of money, or they got cheap, things like that. You can also see it as it's being artistic. It's using limited animation and limited scope to realize what's happening. There's a whole scene where it's just him floating in the air and telling him, you have no restriction, this is all you have. And even then he's confused, because he has no direction, he has nowhere to go, and he doesn't know what to do. So they start limiting him, and once again, this is very crude drawing. All they do is put a line on the floor and they go, here you go, now you have a floor, now you have a limitation. And they're trying to make him understand at the same time that how you perceive things can change, and how you perceive things is what matters the most to you, because it's how you perceive things. And then after that, we get into a little funny bit about an alternate universe where, there are no Evas. Shinji's a regular school student. Asuka's his childhood friend. He goes to school every day. Yui's still with Gendo. Rei just came into the school, and Masato's their teacher. And of course, it's a comedy bit. It's like 4 or 5 minutes long, just showing you this is what it could have been if this is your regular, Japanese school thing. And then finally Shinji goes, well, what's all of this? The other characters, this is the part where we go back into a studio setting. All the characters are there. They're trying to let him know, well, this is one thing that can happen. Once again, going back to how you perceive things. And Shinji finally figures out, wait, after a little, back and forth on this intervention, he figures out, if I love me, then I can find my own worth. And everyone's like, yeah. He goes, well, this is how I see myself. I can be happy. And all the characters, alright. And as he starts to corrode, the stage breaks around him. It starts to crack with him understanding that he is his own person and he is the master of his own fate. He just has to figure it out. And he can do it. He doesn't have to depend on others. The stage starts to crack away and we see all the characters. We see the 3 technicians from Nerve. Masato's there. Toji's there. Kensuke's there. Rei. Asuka. Fuyutsuki. Kaji. Even Gendo and Yui are there. And they say, you finally figured it out. And then there's a text at the end that kind of says, to my father, thank you, to my mother, farewell, and to all the children's congratulations. And that's how we end the show. I know a lot of people found that very unsatisfactory. They didn't know what happened to instrumentality, what happened to the world, what did I just see? Well, that's kind of what I like about it. It's whatever you bring to it is what it is. And in making the audience feel like Shinji, like, what's going on? What is this? It's whatever truth you bring to it. You bring it meaning. Hideaki Anno has said, this isn't a show where we can give you the answers. You have to look for them. And that's why I like it. This isn't like... it's a good show. Think of something like Cowboy Bebop, which everyone happens to say is the greatest anime of all time. I don't agree with that at all. But when you get to the ending, you know what happened. There is no perception. It's clear cut. There's nothing deeper than that. When you see a show like Escaflowne, another show I like, the ending is pretty black and white. There is no variant of ideas. Same thing with something like Outlaw Star, things like that. Another show to a variant, the Ghost in the Shell standalone shows. Those are a little bit more ambiguous, but nothing like this. Everything you perceive is what you bring into it, and that's what I like about this episode, and that's what I like about this ending. There is also something to say that this episode N25 can be viewed as a companion piece to the end of Evangelion, and I think there's a lot of evidence in both works that says that they are meant to be companion pieces. So, finally done. All 26 episodes reviewed. I've had a blast talking about it, rewatching this show. I still have one more little thing just to talk about the show in general, all 26 episodes. That'll be probably coming soon, hopefully while I have alcohol, because it's a lot to go through. For anyone who's watched these videos, I thank you very much. I'd like to thank Jeff for being here or helping me review some of these episodes when he was here. Everyone else, thanks for humoring me on this show that's about 22 years old now. Just about. I think it came out in 96, so 22-year-old show. For everyone who watched, thank you very much. Any comments, right below. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Even if they're especially younger people. Jeff's 13. A lot of his friends don't know about Evangelion. They just know about the stuff that's either still popular on Cartoon Network or or Toonami, or just stuff. This is something that I think more people should watch. So that's it for now. I'm exhausted of. I love this show, and I'll have one more commentary before I start hitting the movies. So, to all the children, congratulations.